I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Accountants World. And joining us today is the President of Accountants World, Jeff Gramlich. He'll be speaking on the topic, how to offer payroll profitably. So once again, I want to thank you for joining us today. If you're having any issues with the audio or you haven't yet connected with the audio, you have two options. If you look on the GoToWebinar control panel, you can select telephone and then you'll be provided with a call-in number and a code, or you can select microphone and speakers and then you'll be hearing it through your computer. Also, if you haven't yet downloaded the materials for today's webinar, the slides that Jeff will be using, simply go to the Handouts tab on the GoToWebinar control panel, and you can download a PDF there of Jeff's presentation. Today's webinar is eligible for one free CPE credit. It's based on active participation. Active participation is defined as attending the live webinar for no less than 50 minutes, responding to all 3 poll questions that we have during the webinar, and also submitting the post-webinar survey within 24 hours after the webinar has ended. The webinar survey will be available to you as soon as you close out of your window, but if you don't see it at that point, don't worry about it. You're going to get a thank you email from Accountants World or CPA Academy following this, and you'll be able to complete the survey there as well. A couple of tips on the GoToWebinar panel. You can minimize or maximize the panel anytime you'd like to using the orange arrow. Your audio options, as I mentioned before, you can dial in using your telephone or use the microphone and speakers. If you have any questions for Jeff during the presentation or after the presentation, simply click on the questions section and you can enter in a question there. And finally, as I mentioned, if you haven't yet gotten the webinar materials for today's presentation, simply click on Handouts and you'll see a PDF of that. I should also mention, in terms of the CP credit, the field of study is specialized knowledge and applications. This is the second to last webinar in this year's 2015 Expert Webinar Series. So Jeff is presenting today, and then 4 weeks from today, Rick Telberg will be presenting on trends in accounting heading into 2016. So if you haven't signed up for that yet, please go to accountantsworld.com to do so. You'll also get a reminder in your thank you email. I also want to mention we have a special webinar tomorrow, and it should be relevant to many of you since it's also related to payroll. And the title of the webinar tomorrow is how to consistently earn $3 to $5 per paycheck using Payroll Relief. So if you'd like to learn more about how Payroll Relief can help you to be more profitable and see a significant difference in what you're earning per paycheck if you're already offering payroll services, or see what it could do for your bottom line if you're not offering payroll yet, I encourage you to go ahead and attend that. You'll see a link in your thank you email, and you can also sign up on accountantsworld.com. Click on webinars up on the top menu and then on cloud workshops, and you'll see the payroll webinar listed in there. A brief word about our sponsor. Accountants World is the recognized pioneer in cloud computing solutions. Accountants World started cloud computing solutions for accountants before the term cloud computing even existed, have been working on it for 14 years at this point. All the solutions are fully integrated with one another, as you see on the left-hand side there, and they have all been built for the cloud from the ground up, which means they're able to provide capabilities and benefits to you and your clients that no other cloud solutions can that have been migrated to the cloud. The result of that is measurable results for thousands of accountants across the country, better control over your core services in terms of accounting and payroll, an ability to work more collaboratively with your clients, and higher profits in fewer hours. If you'd like to learn more about all of Accountants World's suite of applications, I encourage you to visit accountantsworld.com and click on the Solutions tab on the top. So at this time, I'd like to introduce Jeff Gramlich and then turn the presentation over to him. Jeff Gramlich is the president of Accountants World. He's been instrumental in driving the company's business development and advancing its leadership in cloud solutions for accountants. Jeff is a technology innovator with over 30 years of experience in the accounting profession. He's regularly included in Accounting Today's top 100 influential people in accounting, and was again just recently, so congratulations to Jeff on that, and the ones to watch list as well. Jeff is a member of the Texas Society of CPAs and has a BSBA in accounting from the University of Arkansas. So at this time, it's my pleasure to go ahead and turn the presentation over to Jeff Gramlich.
Thank you, Dev. I just want to do a quick audio check. Do I sound okay?
Sounds great.
And can you see my main slide here?
I just turned control over to you, so you should have a prompt.
Yep, I took it from you, and I presented my slide.
Yep, we can see it, Jeff.
You see it up?
Yep.
You see it, Jonathan? You see it? Okay. Well, welcome, everyone. We have a little over 300 attendees, and thanks for a little bit of your time this afternoon, whether you're coming to learn a bit about the topic or just get CPE or maybe both. We welcome you to this webinar. We are presenting today from our headquarters here in Long Island, New York. It is a beautiful day here in the Northeast, a really warm, sunny day, and trees are changing colors, so it's a great day all the way around. I'm a Kansas City Royals fan, so I'm kind of in somewhat hostile territory as the Mets fans get over that World Series challenge that they had. But what a great series that it was, and always good to watch baseball at the end of the year if no other time. So, but today let's talk through, how to do payroll and how to make some money on it. We've got a major technology shift that's been underway for several years now. Div mentioned it briefly with cloud computing term, and let's see if we can't learn a few things today and think a little bit differently and maybe try to make some money on it. So what are our objectives today? Let's just take a quick look at a few things that I'd like to try to accomplish over the next 45 minutes or so. One, just, we want to take a quick look at how to develop a profitable practice. And in doing that, we want to look just briefly, and that's why it says brief, look at the old model. Take a look at kind of 3 or 4 key steps, and we're going to elaborate into these in some level of detail that you can accomplish in this time frame. And take a look at what, step 1, how to get into the cloud, what a progressive firm looks like a little bit. Step 2, what to look for in a solution. I'm going to spend a fair amount of time on that. I will use our solution only as an example. This is not a sales pitch. This is just what to look for. Step 3, we're going to talk about managing a payroll service and what that actually means to you. I'm sorry, that's step 3. Step 4, client collaboration and what that means and why it is so absolutely important. Okay, with that kind of outlining the objectives, let's jump right in. And when we think back of the old model, payroll processing has been around in an automated fashion from the mainframe days, and it was controlled by a few of the large service bureaus. Many of them are still around. Many of them have been bought by even bigger ones. And, your clients were controlled by someone else. In fact, some of those old models still exist. When they come in and solicit you and want to bring you bagels or a free lunch, no such thing as a free lunch, right? And I'll offer payroll in the back end, and you control all your clients. And then you quickly find out about a year later, 1, you didn't make as much money as you thought you might with that, and then 2, you're not really controlling your clients as it relates to that payroll service. And then 3, equally important, because I do live on your side of the fence as a CPA, you still have their mistakes to fix at the end of a period. And, when it comes to taxes, you're the person that your client looks to. So if there's a challenge with the payroll taxes, guess what? They're going to tend to call you first. So there's been a lot of effort by various providers over the years to convince you that this has been all pain and no gain. You can't make any money on it. It's too low margin, too much effort, too much risk, too much. Back then, the process was very manual, and it was extremely high touch with all these processes. And if you're still living with a lot of your clients in that world, we're going to talk through a couple ways to really tighten your relationship with them with a payroll offering, and how to get out of that high touch process and those manual processes. But that's some of the characteristics of the old model. So step one, get in the cloud, okay? In order to make money on payroll, and let's be frank, offering an additional service is a nice idea, but we also want to have the opportunity to make some money. We don't do these things just because we're looking for work. We've all got more than enough work to do. We're trying to figure out how to make money and drive our business, and maybe we're under other pressures. In order to do that, you've got to be in the cloud. You've got to get a cloud-based solution. Why? Because this service has 3 or 4 things that you really have to focus on. One, automate, automate, automate. We're going to talk more about that. You have to have volume. You can't make money on just doing 2 or 3 payroll checks a month. That's not going to do anything for you. You got to have volume. Got to continue to drive that, and you have to have processes in place to drive that, which is the 3rd bullet. And then last, you have to have client collaboration, and we'll talk through what different levels you can do and what good systems will allow you to do when you think through collaboration. It's not just about you touching the client, but it's also about the client touching you and where to interject the client. So we're going to talk through that as well. When we talk about a progressive firm, here's what we mean and here's what we see. So when we start to see firms that are growing at double-digit rates, both top and bottom line, and have a high client retention, which is part of the growth, what are they doing? What are they doing that's different? Well, first, they've embraced technology. They've looked at this movement to the cloud as an opportunity, and they're in the cloud and have been. They're moving their customers to the cloud. We had a webinar a few weeks ago with one of our clients who talked just exactly how he moved his customers to the cloud. And you're naturally going to get pushed back. I say to myself and to others, you know, change in life is hard no matter when it comes and what form it comes in. But, you know, it's always there, and change is something we must deal with. So we have to get our customers to get in the cloud, and we have to get ahead of this change. And then the last bullet I want to talk about is they're really creating their own ecosystem. And what we mean by that is they've enabled the cloud-based solutions that they've purchased to enable them to not only communicate and collaborate with their clients, but to also offer additional services. And we're going to talk through that a little bit. But this ecosystem that they've created is basically they have their clients coming to them now in a more timely fashion, in more meaningful questions, in ways in which they can help their clients grow their businesses and become a true strategic partner with them instead of just doing compliance work. Okay, and that's a big part of the ecosystem. And again, we'll jump into some of those details here in just a minute. So with those kind of background and whatever, I want to jump into our very first poll question. And remember, you need to participate in the poll questions in order to get your CPE. That's how we know you're still out there, right? So with that question, I'm going to turn it back to Div and let him launch the first poll, please.
All right, Jeff, thank you. And I'm just about to launch it. And so the poll is currently in progress. The question here is, which of these challenges is slowing your migration to the cloud? I'm waiting for my software vendor to force me. I don't have the correct infrastructure to make the move. The benefit is unclear to me. I can move but can't get my clients to, or I've already migrated to the cloud. So if you could go ahead and please submit your response. You simply have to select your choice. There's no submit button. And as Jeff mentioned, participation in all 3 poll questions is required in order to get CPE today. So we'll take another 10 seconds or so here for people to finish their voting. All right, last call here for anyone who wants to vote. Okay, so we're going to close it here. And so, Jeff, what we see here is a third of people said the benefit is unclear to me. 20.
I lost you, Div. Hello? John, can you hear me?
Yeah, Jeff, we seem to have lost connection with Div.
I lost Div there. Okay.
All right, can you hear me?
John, we can. We lost you for a minute. I heard 1/3. Benefit is unclear to me. Okay. What else was the results?
Yep, and then over 20% said I'm already on the cloud, 20% said I can't get my clients to, and then a smaller percentage for infrastructure and a very small percentage for waiting for my software vendor.
Super. Thank you. Well, I appreciate your participation again in the poll, and it doesn't surprise me that the benefit is unclear to me. We tend to get ingrained in our processes with the comfortable, and one of the things that I'm here to tell you is that payroll and payroll service and payroll offering is a great way to move yourself and your clients to the cloud, and I'm going to show you that because I'm a firm believer that we learn by pictures. So I'm going to show you some slides here in a minute that will absolutely help and hopefully give you some thoughts around how to make that happen. So no surprise to me, Div. And if you can transfer control back, we will take a look.
Yep, it's back to you now. Okay.
Very good. So our next step in the process is what to look for, okay? So the first obvious, and this may seem obvious, but the system must be fully automated. And I put the word fully in uppercase and bold, and we really mean that. And so what does that mean, okay? It needs to support the coverage, meaning it does the forms automatically in the jurisdictions you're in or you plan to be in. So what this means is more than just saying that they do the form. You need to ask, do they electronically file the form? Do they electronically submit the taxes to that jurisdiction? This is what we're talking about when we say automate. Those are just two aspects. Do they facilitate, a batch processing? Okay, and we'll show you a few slides around that, because if you're their back office and you're processing their payroll, you want to know and pay attention to these batch features. These are significant time-saving features that you really need to look for in a system. You got to have the right reports at the right time. It's key to collaborating with your clients and to managing the practice. Getting paid on this service has got to be automated, and it should be automated. And as CPAs, we tend to not like to call clients and ask about, I did this for you 2 months ago, where's my money? Nobody likes to have that conversation, and so it should be in an automated fashion, and we'll show you a little bit more about that in a minute. And we've talked a little about management tools. I'll show you some more tools that are critical to the process as you look for a system. And then key to all of this is collaboration. A couple words I'd like for you to write down as it relates to this screen, especially to collaboration, is the workflow here and the interaction with your client has got to be flexible. I want to say that again because that's a key point. The workflow and the interaction and collaboration between you and your client has to be flexible. Okay, and what we mean by that is you are going to have some clients that are maybe in a startup phase and they don't have much knowledge, if any, about any of these processes or how to get it done. They just know they need to get it done. So you might not want to give them too much control, if any, versus another client that has their whole own internal accounting department and you want to give them a lot of control. And so we'll talk through what that means and how you actually make that happen. But a system has to have that flexible workflow and control in a collaborative environment. Okay? So let's break these down a little bit. Let's look at some of the automation attributes. These are not all, but these are some of the ones that we think are key. When we say complete, we tend to think of all 50 states and the localities. And depending on your particular geography, the localities can sometimes be very challenging. But that's what we mean, and we mean not only the computation, but if that locality or jurisdiction offers electronic filing, we would expect the system you would pick, or the best practice would be they are complying electronically. You've got to get your clients to think of direct deposit. Most of them are that way, and limit the number of paper paychecks. We'll talk more about that later. But some have to write paper checks, and we'll talk through how that can be streamlined as well. I've already mentioned electronic filing of quarterly and federal taxes, as well as electronic payment. And then this year-end processing is key. You know, when you're doing the live payroll, generating the W-2, the W-3, and the 1099 should be no more than a click of a few buttons. You know everything you need to know about a particular employee, and you should be able to generate that W-2 very easily. And these features at the end of the year, as well as the paycheck features, you want to make sure the system you look at has those features in a batch component, right? And we'll show you some of the comprehensive reports. So this is some of the attributes of what an automated system looks like. So let's dig a little bit deeper. We're going to kind of go through a few screens and to show you a little bit more detail what each of these characteristics look like, or these attributes. All right, so here we're looking at the electronic service screens, okay? Obviously this is within our product, within Payroll Relief. This screen comes up per client, right? And it is a snapshot, as you see right over here in the top left, a snapshot of each client that you have and where they are with their e-services and where you are as providing their back office payroll for them. Right here you see that their ACH has been accepted. You see the approved direct deposit amount. This is for the current payroll. You can see are the tax payments enabled. Where are the direct deposits? Here's 9 employees and contractors. They're listed here. You can scroll through and see that not only the amount but the status that it was sent, and it was sent just a few weeks ago, so it's current. And we're electronically filing these forms. It's been enabled in these states. Okay, and then this part of the slide over here shows you the debit transactions. This is what should agree with what's in their bank account, and because you're also doing their bookkeeping and their write-up, we hope you'll be able to verify these amounts that will be automatically transmitted over to the bookkeeping product that you're using. Certainly in Accounting Power it's all automated, but these amounts and their debit amount is what's coming out of their bank account. So it's another checks and balances and a quick snapshot. Okay, so this is showing you in one screen, which is critical, so that you're not paging through the app. You know, where do I go to see where am I at with my electronic services? And this shows you this in one quick screen. Okay, next slide. Batch. I mentioned just a moment ago that batch processing is critical. And the reason why it's critical, and this is why you should look for this feature when you're evaluating a system, is because I'll state the obvious. You do not want to have to bring up each client, each employer, if you will, down this side here, one at a time, and look and say, okay, process their checks, process their checks, process their checks. Okay, you don't want to do that. Here we have over here, just a quick list of all of our clients. Okay, we have their work code. What are their pay dates? The end of October, just last week. Are these standard payrolls? They are. We had one here, AA's Diner. An additional is probably some sort of additional payroll check, maybe a manual one for a new employee that came in part way. Whatever. You see the range here, right? And this check here can mean select them all. Here I've individually selected, but had I clicked on this, it would check all of these like you're used to in web-based apps, and now I can process all, right, and say print or email checks, right? Now, this screen is set up for you, obviously, to do batch processing of the check printing, right? It has the capability. You have the capability to control if you want your client to print any paper checks that come through. And that's a best practice. We recommend you not print many checks in your office. We think that sending them to our secured portal or emailing them securely is the way to do that. If you clicked on email checks, that is encrypted. and you let the client print them there in their location, they can have check stock and print them off and distribute that much easier than you printing them and putting them in the mail. Again, flexibility is key here, and this is a key thing that you need to be able to do, is print these things and do these batch type processes all with one click on one screen. Okay, our next screen, we're going to talk about W-2 and e-filing. You know, clearly you have to do this at the end of the year. You got to file the year-end forms. Those are done annually. You've got W-2s you have to do. Same thing, same type of screen, right? We can sort by any one of these columns, and we can collect here and select them all, right? So this one just is our top 100 clients. It gives us a status, what's the W-2 count. We click here, we process, right? If we have print, or we can electronically file. In this case, we've engaged to electronically file, and we want to electronically file the W-2s and electronically file our end of the year tax returns, okay? So that's two very critical steps in that batch processing when you think through offering this service that should be in the solution that you are looking for. All right. Another key is in the reports. And this report is a payroll comparison report. Here you see this highlighted in red for you, and you see that the payroll is up 43%. The system has this set up as a default to put that percentage there every time, whatever the difference is, up or down. And we will present, if you check the box, we will present to the bottom, you know, anything that's over 25%, just as a system default, because we have in our best practice in our software noticed that any payroll that swings greater than 25% in any given period of time, you might want to look at. That's just years of processing for us that we put down in the system. So it does it automatically. You just take a look and say, yeah, they hired 3 people. They didn't let anybody go. And so, yeah, it being up a fair amount makes sense to me. If it doesn't, then you can dig in a little bit deeper and take a closer look. But the whole point here is that you can look at this report, you know, real quickly for each of your clients and see what's going on, okay? This next report also is a summary type report. And this one does another summary for you, and it gives you the total liability, the total cost of payroll, and it's emailed to your client automatically. So if this number is way out of whack and you say, this is just not right, I've done this 3 times and payrolls always end up between 10 and 12, then maybe that's reasonable. But if they're always between 5 and 7, and then you see a total cost of payroll $11,641, you might have to look into it. This also includes your fees, okay? This total payroll cost includes your fees, okay? And we're going to talk through that, because I think making sure when you offer a new service that is automated, that is cloud-based, you have to be able to get paid and get paid easily, okay? Another report we provide that we want to bring up is this retirement report. This is also very important, especially as our population ages, and we all want to try to take advantage of every tax break we can, and we want to make sure that we're putting everything we can in our 401k amounts. This is a 401k retirement contributions report. We also have a report that looks just like this, that you can have your client, the employer, transmit to their 401k providers that says, here's what our payroll system shows have been taken out and deposited, and you know, those numbers should match, but it's a checks and balance for you, and you're doing it on behalf of your client, and it helps the 401k provider know that somebody is looking, and that every dollar is important always, but we've got an extra way to check and an extra check and balance independent of them. So we really like these reports that are automated, these reports that help us with batch, these reports that help us keep up with what's going on electronically in the system, and then our obviously retirement report is yet another example. Okay, I've mentioned this 3 times already, so let's talk about it. On this screen, again in the e-services, this is your screen, and it's a very important screen because this is how you get paid. And so when you look at this screen and you set it up, the best practice here is to discuss with your client up front what you are going to charge them for payroll, whether it's per check or per payroll. And the way you know how to make this work for you is you know how much they're paying, assuming you're doing their accounting work, maybe complete accounting, where you're helping them pay their bills, or you're just at least doing their write-up and at the end of each month and consolidating, creating financials for them at least once a year. You know how much they're paying. You can look. You have access to that information. So let's use it. How much are they paying the other vendor? How much are they paying the other software provider? Are there any other costs that don't show up on that one line? And then with that, I can come up with my fee schedule. I can do the math myself, and I can come up with a base fee if they're doing it per payroll. And they just have a few number of employees, then we certainly suggest a base fee. If you've got a contractor, we suggest a base fee there, and then the fee per paychecks, and this is a strong multiplier for you and a strong way in which to do it, okay? And a lot of products out there charge separately for the W-2 and 1099s, and you can look at that and say, okay, what is that to me as well, right? So these are your compliance fees. First, you have processing fees. You see that in this part of the screen. And then your compliance fees. So now once you've talked to them about, okay, we're in agreement, my engagement letter signed, here's what I'm going to charge, they've agreed to it, I set these fees up in the payroll system, that's all I have to do, right? If you just process it monthly, you're going to get an ACH debit into your account directly from their account, without you doing anything else. The money just shows up. We make the ACH transfer each month on a particular billing date, or if you want to get paid each time payroll is incurred, which is what's checked here, then this will run with each pay run. And that'll all add into that total cost. So you can do it monthly on each day, on a day, and you pick the day, or you can do bill it as it's incurred or processed, okay? I love this screen, and I love it for a lot of different reasons. One, I just think it helps you guys get through a new service in an expeditious way, and in a way in which explaining the fee up front is the one and only time you typically have to explain it, and it's right there. Now, there's reports that come out with each system that help you explain the fee if you need to get back into that with your client. But the vast majority, once they've explained it once, articulate an engagement letter, put the fees on this slide, and you're set. You're ready to go. And with that, Dev, I think we have our next poll question, please, if we can bring up poll question number 2.
Sure. And before we do that, Jeff, if you don't mind, we'll go through 1 or 2 questions here as well.
Sure.
All right, so Judith asked, and I apologize that we won't be able to get through all the questions right at this moment, but we'll do more at the next break and then after the presentation as well. Judith asked, if my client is on QuickBooks Online, doing the payroll through an online system will still require us to bring the client's books up to date. If we do the payroll through QuickBooks Online, the process is so simple the client feels they could actually do it themselves. Help me to overcome this objection.
So your client is doing it on QuickBooks Online, if I understand the question right, Dev, and Judith wants to take over the payroll piece that the client is now doing online. Is that correct? Did I get that right?
Yes, the client is on QuickBooks Online and is wondering why they shouldn't just do payroll through QuickBooks Online as well.
Okay, so Judith, here's the question that I would, or the conversation. Here's how I would steer it with that client. Are they comfortable with keeping up with the regulatory requirements that continue to change every year in a manner that you know is consistent with their business and you know is good for their business? So, for instance, you know as a practicing CPA, as a practicing accountant, you're having to keep up with things like new tax changes and things like the Affordable Care Act. Yes, they can do QuickBooks Online, and yes, they can get a payroll processed. Will they get it processed accurately, and do they trust that system more than they trust you? And I would submit to you, they do not. And as soon as you say to them, well, look, if I'm doing it for you, I'm also making sure that, you know, we're keeping in full compliance with regulatory changes as they continue to evolve and come out. We naturally have an election year coming up here in short order, and there's going to be changes. We all know that. So that would be a way in which I would ask that client, are they 100% comfortable relying on an online system to make sure they are in compliance versus relying on your expertise. And I'm going to submit to you that your relationship is strong enough with them that they will want you to look at it, and you're having to review their payroll anyway to get their bookkeeping and other activities done as well. So yet that's an efficiency gain for you, but it's something you can articulate to your client as well.
All right, and if we'll take one other quick question here, and then I'll submit the poll. Don asked, what about liability if we're automatically pulling money from their accounts? Is there any potential downside to us if the payroll is incorrect?
Well, there's always some exposure, Don, and that's a great question. But let me tell you how we've limited it at. First of all, we're processing literally billions of transactions, and our system is so automated and looks for money that we have very little of the CPAs really ever that have any kind of financial risk. And here's how it works. With a client, we are going to, one of your clients, we are going to pull from their account, just as you know and just as you saw from their account through ACH processes, typically on Tuesday for a Friday run. That is our process for pulling the monies out. So we're looking for the money up front, okay, before we process that payroll. If they are short, that payroll will not process, and we get on the phone with them immediately on your behalf and say, you know, we need to, we get on with you, and you usually call the client, but we will say, Don, look, this client is short. I'll pick a number, $100, but the whole payroll stops for that particular client, and we do it in advance of any monies coming out, right? And then we have checks in there behind the scenes that keep fraud and other things really from happening altogether. So the key here is the process in which we go through. We check for the money up front. If there's any kind of shortage, we're on the phone. We continue with you, you know, until we get it, and that payroll basically gets held until they process. Even so the liability is on them first and foremost, and we catch it in advance of them processing to keep you safe.
All right, thank you. And I will go ahead and launch the second poll question here at this point. And our attendees should be seeing it right now. The question is, with all the automation a cloud-based payroll solution offers, my firm should consider offering payroll services to be more progressive, take a deeper dive, and talk to others who are doing it. I won't make money on payroll no matter how automated it is, or change is hard, we'll end up doing nothing. So please go ahead and vote. Please select one of those four options. Again, you simply need to click on the button there. There's no submit button. And we will take another 15 or 20 seconds here to allow people to vote. And again, just a reminder, voting in all three of the questions, all three of the poll questions is required in order to get CP. I saw a couple of you wrote in and said that you had missed the first poll question because of audio problems on your way in. So in that case, please write to us with your response for the first one in the questions panel, and we will try to get you in there. All right, just a last few seconds here for any stragglers. Going once, going twice, closed. All right, Jeff, so we are seeing, okay, so 53% said my firm should consider offering payroll services to be more progressive. 28% said should take a deeper dive and talk to others who are doing it. And an equal number, about 9–10%, said I won't make money on payroll no matter how automated it is, or change is hard.
Okay, well, thank you. So when I look at the first two results, which is seriously consider, that's actually very encouraging. Again, of all the different disciplines and activities that you have to think through in running your practice, whether it's tax, you know, that process, income tax has been automated, and we've been a part of that all of our careers. I've been doing it for 30-something years, and grew up doing some things manually, and then mainframe, and then PC, and now cloud-based. So tax has been around for a while, and our automations are very comfortable. Certainly, accounting has come a long ways, and I'm pleased to be a part of accountants world and them helping with that migration. But payroll is the area in which you can really take a look at and ease your way into cloud solution and cloud offerings in an automated fashion that you, quite frankly, can make very good money on. So if some of your other services are getting price compressed and commoditized to some degree, here's an area where you can jump in. And I looked at it several times when I was at a big firm, and the automation wasn't there, and we couldn't compete, but that's not true anymore. And so for the 81% of you, that's great. And as Div mentioned, and this will be my only plug, is we'll talk a little bit more at the end of the session on that percentage there that feel like they could do more with it and would like to take a deeper look. Okay, so if we jump in, and I'm going to assume we're going to jump in and make an offering and try to go for this and increase our services to our clients, tighten that relationship even more, improve a very good relationship, make a great relationship even better. How do we manage it? And let's talk through this, okay? You got to have a system that has some analytical tools. We're analytical by nature. That's what we do, and quite frankly, that's what we get paid to do. But we need a way to do this so that we can drive that volume and drive some profitability. And we got to have some activity reports. We've got to have some bird's eye view of all of our clients, some managerial tools for the compliance, client activity, and some tracking of our process fees. So let's take a look at a handful of what a system might look like or should look like, okay? And then last but not least today, we'll talk a little bit more about control and collaboration, okay? So let's jump in here. When we look at a payroll snapshot screen, okay, we expect it to look like this, okay, and we have this in several places within our suite, but really I've got to be able to go to one screen every morning, or have my staff go to one place, and I've got to be able to look at all of our clients and scroll down, right? Now, when I suggest to you or submit to you about getting into payroll and how to make it profitable, you need to think through the staffing, and this is a key slide. I want to talk about this for just a minute. If you've got paraprofessional staff that are helping with some of the accounting now, or you're thinking about hiring some of them, this is the other process they can help you with. Yes, you're going to look over these clients. Yes, you're going to help get it set up. With payroll, as I said earlier, it's all about volume, and it's also all about getting it set up the right time, the right way, and that's obviously up front. Once you get it set up, an automated system will make this very easy for your paraprofessional staff to help with, or your non-CPA staff to help you with this process, right? And this is one of the key screens they would come to every day. So what are we looking at here? Well, first of all, we're looking at all of our clients. We've got different clients over here. Scrolls down, there could be hundreds or thousands. We obviously know this is our snapshot slide. We are displaying this by client name. That's an obvious, okay? Our default sort is payroll approved. So this is not alphabetical. Obviously, you can see that, but are the payrolls approved? And you got yes, a blank, and then you got yes, and then you got some blanks, and then you got a yes down here. So this is the default. You can sort by any of these columns, but this is the default. Now, why are these others? What's this red telling me, okay? Well, if it's red, it means it's past due. Okay, so the tax was past due and some past due forms here, so we might need to check that. Payroll is pending. It's been approved by you or your client, but it's pending, and we've got some things over here in red. And I typically want to look at what's in red and clear it out first, right? And I want to look at what's in yellow next. Hopefully those colors are coming out right. But this is obviously anything that's due in the next 7 days. So red equals past due in our system, yellow equals due in the next 7 days. And with a quick graphical look and a scroll down of the screen, you can see where am I at, why is it past due, what happened, oh, well, it got rejected. Why did it get rejected? Well, they didn't have enough money in their account. Okay, let's make sure they wire that in, clear that up, and we'll process away. Okay. Now, we may need to dig a little deeper on a given client, and here's what we're going to look at on this screen, again in our payroll center, so you see that on our slide here, what's been approved today and what's in progress. Well, here's what's been approved, okay, and you can see that. These are the ones that are approved today. You can see the status, printed, approved, etc. Right? And this is a quick slide to look at any to look at your clients and say, okay, the best practice is to check this daily, and especially if you're doing their processing and everything behind the scenes for them. Just check this screen daily. You know, what got approved, what didn't, and what got processed. Okay? So a quick screen there. Again, screens, reports, compliance reports, these are all reports. You're looking at them as a screen. They're available in paper too, but again, it's a cloud-based online system, right? And what that means is it's live and accurate every day, every moment of every day. As soon as you hit enter or make a change, it's up to date, okay? Manage compliance. This is a very important screen. This is for all of your clients, right? And if you're looking through this screen, again, you'll see all your clients listed here. What are we looking for here? We're looking for any exceptions. This is the exceptions report. What report do we have? Well, we have an invalid state unemployment account number. We need to get that fixed. Employer ACH they haven't done their applications. We can't even get money out. Okay, so we must be early on with this particular client. These are all the different exceptions in the description, and excuse me, and also tells you kind of what you need to do. You got to talk to the client. And there's other categories here. So we have unsuccessful, ones that were filed, ones that were rejected, forms due, past due, manage the Texas, and a federal look-back schedule. So here we have all the different exceptions that can come through, and as long as we're looking at this on a daily, weekly basis to see we're timely here, then we're in good shape. And again, this is all live, real-time, only available in a cloud-based system. What kind of client activity report? This is a bird's eye review of all the payrolls that a particular client has processed, okay? And that means since you brought them on board, okay? So how many payrolls did they do? What was the check account? What was the direct deposit account? Okay, this slide plays in really well with the next slide, which is my processing fees. What have I been paid? How much money have I made? How much money is pending? Okay, this particular button here shows what's pending. This is what I can expect to get paid from these clients, okay, and these are the amounts, right? And then I can look at what's been billed. I can click on that, and it would show me everything that's been paid. And this is obviously from a particular date range, really from this particular case for the whole year. So we've got some that are obviously behind, but not too bad. Some down in here, some smaller amounts, but these are all pretty current dates, right? And these are ones that were just pending, okay? Now, this brings us to step 4. Collaboration, and this is a very key step. Maybe you save the best part for last, okay? Collaborating with your client can only occur in a real-time efficiency fashion if it's a cloud-based solution, okay? Why is that? Well, let's talk through some of the obvious. One, this is a system that it's only one database and it's only one version of the software. So when it gets updated for you, it gets updated for them. It occurs overnight. You don't even know it. It just gets updated. Okay, that can't happen in a premise-based where you have to send out updates or updates get downloaded. Can't happen in a premise-based solution. Only a cloud-based solution. That's one. You're both using the same software, okay, but it is the only software where you, as the CPA, have total control over what they do. Okay, if you want to give them, as I said earlier, access to everything because they've got a well functioning accounting department, then you can grant access to everything. If you're the startup and they don't know anything about it and you just want them to enter hours, you can give them access to just that, right? And then everybody falls in between one or two of those extremes, but they're collaborating with you. They're saying, okay, here's the parameters we're going to set up, and with that you can absolutely have them do some of the things that you don't need to do, like enter time every day or every week, right? And here's what the permission screen looks like. So under employer, again, this can be the same for every employer or it can be customized for each employer. We're going to allow client access to the following, okay, pay schedules, et cetera, and all of these I can check or I can uncheck, right, based on what their capabilities are and what I know and what I agree to them to do in my engagement letter. So if in my engagement letter it says you're going to print all paper checks, put that in there and give them access to check printing. If you're printing the paper checks, then uncheck that and they can't print checks. If it says only they can modify checks after approval, then check that box. If they want you to do it, then uncheck it, and so on and so forth. But this is a screen that not only tightens up your engagement letter and what to put in it, because it's clearly defining who does what role, right? And this is very unique, right, because it's down to the feature level. If you're doing it, then you don't check it. If you need them to do it, then you are checking it, and this is how you go back to them and say, well, I need you to enter the hours. Now, that might be obvious, but they might not know that they're going to pay the taxes. Well, here it is checked. It's also in my engagement letter. I said I'm going to pay you're going to pay the taxes. I'm not going to submit them. You're going to pay them, and you know, we're going to take care of pay types, etc. Okay? My favorite screen in the entire application. This is it right here, the billing screen and the control screen. Okay, every system, this is kind of stating the obvious, but we're going to show you a little bit about what it looks like, but they've got to have an employee portal. Your client has to have the ability for his employees to easily look at their profile, maybe edit some of their profile as appropriate, but they need to be able to look at their pay stub and look at their W-2s at the end of the year, right? And then obviously we've all seen these type things. We've all gotten used to them in every system now. But the beauty of this system, and this portal is a good screen to describe this system is totally accessible from any device, anywhere, anytime. So if you need to actually approve a payroll from your cell phone, you can do it. If an employee wants to look at their paycheck on their phone, they can do it. So that is a very powerful benefit of cloud-based solutions. We've heard it over and over, anytime, anywhere. This system actually allows it, and it supports any device. We don't really care what they're using, iPhone, Droid, doesn't matter. But if they need to, now obviously entering payroll and journal entries and other things on a phone might be a little complicated, but certainly reviewing a few numbers and approving it and or looking at your paycheck from a remote device absolutely can be accomplished with this system, and any system you look at should have that capability. And with that, Div, I think we're to our third and final poll. Div, are you there? Might be on mute.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. I can. Thank you.
Okay, so while I'm loading up that poll question, a couple of people have asked pretty much the same question, which was, can you explain if the payroll data can be imported into QuickBooks and how that works?
Yes, the payroll can go both. It can import into QuickBooks. We have a direct import into QuickBooks Online, and for and several other applications. And then we also export to Excel, and you can use that and filter it straight into QuickBooks. But QBO, it definitely exports straight into QuickBooks. Okay,
great. And I have just launched the third poll question. What percentage of my clients can I get to collaborate with me for payroll services? And you see the 4 options in front of you there, ranging from less than 20% up to over 70%. So please go ahead and select the best answer for your firm. And again, just a quick reminder that answering the poll questions is required in order to get CPE. And we'll take about 10 more seconds here for people to get their responses in. right, let's go ahead and close this poll up here in 5 seconds. Okay, Jeff, so 80% of people said either less than 20% or 20 to 50%, and then 11% said 50 to 70%, and 9% said over 70%.
Very, very good. So, somewhat expected in the sense that, we obviously all want this to be higher, and you want it to be higher. So let's talk through that and what might be a few ways in which to get started. We always suggest you crawl before you walk and then walk before you run. And so what we mean by this is start with some clients that are obviously, and this is what's going to happen naturally anyway, more inclined to want to try this with you, where you can offer a service, or they're doing it manually or some other painful way, that you can say, look, I've got a solution here. I want to work with you. It's a very collaborative solution. So if they're scared about getting online or doing any of these things online, we're going to do it together, and that's part of what collaboration means, right? We're going to work together, shoulder to shoulder here, and we're going to get started. And then we're going to build that as time goes. If we think through our own personal lives, most of us, I'll say 10 years ago, didn't do a whole lot of online banking. We just didn't. We all wrote checks. We manually reconciled our checkbooks every month or quarter or whatever, and we might have done a few things online, and you think about that today, the world's changed completely. Almost everything I do, or my wife does for our household, is done online, and we've all just kind of embraced online bill pay, and the number of paper checks that we write each year just continues to go down. And so I think that's a good leading indicator of where our society is going, and the security here, guys, has been incredibly tight. No issues there, and we've all kind of gotten comfortable. It doesn't mean it won't ever happen, but these services are very secure. And so I think as you talk through your clients, you take them through real life situations in which they can relate to, and that's how you get them to gradually say, I will do it with you. I will do it for one pay cycle or 2 pay periods or whatever, and we'll go from there. But we're used to that. We're used to getting electronic deposits for our paychecks today, and this is just another way in which to do it. And then third, I would say, don't underestimate how much it means that you are their most trusted advisor. They trust you more than they trust their doctor, their dentist. They don't change, certainly more than their attorney. And that's no, I'm not belittling the other professions. They're wonderful professions, but the CPA is highly trusted by your clients, and that's because you're dealing with their finances all the time, and money has meaning to them. Their health does too, and so do their legal opportunities, but they trust you, and don't forget that they trust you. And some are just easier to talk to than others, and that's where I would start. I want to try this with you. Are you interested? I'm going to do it at a very competitive price for you up front, and then we're going to get better, and you can explain it all up front. And I just think it's a wonderful opportunity, and this is a service that for years we have said, no, it's all pain, no gain, and that's not it. Now it can be a lot of gain with minimal pain, and that's the thought I would like for you to consider and leave there. Div, do we have any final questions? I think we're about out of time. I would like for you to, Div, if you could, to put up that one last slide on our webinar tomorrow, where we will take you through the application in detail. Can you pull that slide back up and where they might find information there on that?
Yep. I'm going to go ahead and just take the control back here, and then I'll pull that right up. Okay, Jeff, are you seeing the Don't Miss Tomorrow's webinar?
I am. So this is the only marketing piece, which is after our webinar, because we didn't want to make it a sales presentation. But we do have this coming up tomorrow at 2:30, and you see a couple other dates there on your screen. There's a button to click and register. This is a very powerful webinar in which you will have more time to dig into, but we want you to learn more about how you can offer this and offer it profitably. And with that, Div, I think we'll close it out unless you have any final questions or thoughts.
No, I think that's it. And in terms of tomorrow's webinar and the ones coming up later on in November, you'll see a link for that in your thank you email, and you can also go on accountantsworld.com. Up on the top, click on webinars and then cloud workshops, and you'll see this and other cloud workshops that we're offering as well. For those of you who have submitted questions and that we haven't been able to get to yet, Jeff, if you don't mind sticking around for a few minutes to take a look at some of those.
Okay.
Okay. And for everyone else, thank you very much for your time and for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully tomorrow at the payroll webinar, and if not, for Rick Kjellberg's expert webinar in 4 weeks. Thanks again for your time today.